don't give a fuck.
Are you sure?
I just don't give a fuck.
Presenting The Art of Not Giving a Fuck with Garrett John.
All right, hi and welcome everyone to another episode of the Art of Not Giving a Fuck, Victim to Adventurer podcast. Today we've got a very special guest coming from Toronto, Canada, who is Ameer Rosic. Now, Ameer is the founder of Growth 48, which is an advisory company to help startups get off their ass and get moving rather quickly, I might add. He's also a serial entrepreneur, an investor, and as we said, an advisor to many different startups. But that's not the only reason we have Ameer on the show. Ameer, I saw a video of yours that said, "I don't give a fuck." And that was explaining some of your approach to life, to business, I'd imagine. And so why don't we just dive right in there, since that's the topic of our show. And that's what caught my eye, and that's why you're here today. So let's just dive in right there. What were you pointing out there? What was your impetus for doing that video?
Well, first of all, Garrett John, thank you so much for having me on. And going back to the video, I don't give a fuck. I think there's a huge plague going on around the world today, and that is most people are looking for too much love and acceptance from other people, validations. Does this person like me? Am I wearing the right clothes? Am I making the right decisions? And they're putting the onus, they're putting the power in other people's hands, and they're becoming victims because they're not taking ownership, extreme ownerships in their own life. And when I made that video, I don't give a fuck, what I was trying to portray or get my message out there was, listen, at the end of the day, you shouldn't care what people think about you. You shouldn't care what people view you as. What you should care about is how much you love yourself. And I think we're at a point in this world that people don't love themselves enough. I always make a joke with my fiance. I'm like, don't take this the hard way, but I love myself more than I love you. And this isn't to be disrespectful. Mm-hmm. It's because if I'm not 100%, if I'm not 100% confident of myself, if I'm not 100% up to my level, how in the world am I going to be the best leader for you? How am I going to be the best leader for my company? How am I going to be the best human possible to help other human beings out there? I won't. And I think when you don't give a fuck, you actually create your own reality. And this is why you see certain people, we can take morals and ethics on the sidelines for now, but if we look at Steve Jobs or Elon Musk or even Richard Branson, trust me when I say they love themselves more than they love anybody else. But because of this love for themselves, they actually create their own alternate reality, and they warp reality, and they bioengineer exactly how they want to control their own life.
Mm-hmm. That's a beautiful thing, man. Yeah, that's at the heart of this idea of not giving a fuck. It's not so much that shitty, attitude of some kid on the street, like, yeah, I don't give a fuck. But it's not giving a fuck about all this bullshit that's holding you back, all this, the potential ideas that other people could maybe be having about you. Yeah, I love that you started it out that way. How much do you love yourself? We draw the line at 100%. We call it 100% juice within the context of some of the courses and workshops here. But that you have to start with 100% juice, 100% self-acceptance. Otherwise, all the tasks, all the goals, everything you end up doing is trying to get you to measure back up to that, trying to bring you somewhere close to that, rather than goals, like you say, where you start creating your own reality, rather than running away from fears of the one that you think you're trapped in.
I just want to talk about one thing. It is normal. We are a tribe society where acceptance is part of our DNA. So don't feel that you are weird, or don't feel that, just because you have this feeling of, I need someone to accept me, that it's wrong. You first have to become aware of, listen, this is natural, but how do I overcome this? And it's not going to happen overnight. It's not like, Gary and I tell you, just snap your fingers and all of a sudden, you're 100% juicing yourself or loving yourself or whatever, terminology you want to use. You have to become aware of the position you are in your life. And that's the first step in creating power for yourself, or I like to call it becoming your own God. And this is not to spit or be disrespectful to any religion, or this isn't blasphemy whatsoever. I'm just saying, once you are aware of what's happening in your life and aware of your emotions and aware of who you are, you come to a realization that you are God itself. that you are capable of anything you want to do. You're capable of the most magical, wonderful things in this life, but you have to go back to loving yourself first before loving anybody else. And then that's the root of the equation of success in life for everything there is, whether that is spirituality, whether that is finances, whether that is family, whether that is physical health. You know, for example, if you want to become a good parent, if you're not loving yourself first, becoming a good mother or becoming a good father, how are you going to raise your kids properly? You're not. Mm-hmm. Or if you want to, engineer a certain lifestyle for yourself, say finances, you want to, I don't know, have $1 million lifestyle. Well, if you're not loving your finances first and loving yourself, how are you going to generate that reality? You're not. That's how simple it is. But the processes to get to that is not simple. The ideology, the metaphors, the motifs that we use, it is. But the process, the hero's journey, as Joseph Campbell talks about, that's where the secret sauce comes in.
Yeah, man, and I'm glad you bring that up because often it's very easy to get to these various milestones, say climbing the top of a mountain and taking a picture and sending it to folks. That's like saying, 100% juice and just use the art of NGF, bro, and all this kind of stuff. But then someone can go, man, but I just don't feel that. I feel like a complete piece of shit at the bottom of a trash heap and no idea what to do next. So why don't we dive right down into that and see, how did you get here from there? Because as you said, it's part of our DNA to be chasing acceptance and to be fitting in with the tribe. And in fact, we all have to face that tangible, physical survival threat feeling that our bodies produce when we get rejected, because that used to keep us alive, right? We're living in the woods and tribes, and if I am an asshole to the whole group and they throw me out and banish me to the woods, likely I'm gonna die unless I either get accepted by another tribe or re-accepted back in. However, that's not the case anymore with modern life, and yet we end up then being enslaved and or controlled or just bounced around through society as a victim when we end up allowing that biological directive and fight or flight response to drive our lives. So how did you come to a confrontation with that and then begin to transcend it?
If I'm looking at my past, I don't have your typical story where I went to school and I got my MBA and, I had a midlife crisis. I'm only 30. Reality is I never went to high school or college. I started hustling when I was around 15 or 16 because it was good money and school was just boring for myself. And plus I wanted to create my own reality. However, I wasn't loving myself back in during that time. My number one priority was acceptance. And the reason why I did what I did was a couple of things. A, it was fun, exhilarating. B, was really good money because when you're 15, 16 and you don't like school, most of the people, guidance counselors or your teachers or parents, they tell you have to go to school because it'll get you a job and job gives you money. Well, I just bypass all of that and make $1 million times more than anybody else does. Like here's a 15-year-old kid making $250,000 cash a year. Why should I go to school? I don't need school and I can do whatever I want. However, I would say the top of everything was the acceptance of my peers. You were trying to find yourself, and what they did, I did, and we rolled in a pack. It was like the wolf pack, and we did everything together, from the good to the bad to the ugly, you name it. We've been through some really sticky situations and crazy times, and this lasted for quite a while. And like I said, ups and downs. A couple of overdoses. I've been shot at, stabbed at, you name it. Went to jail a couple of times, and it wasn't until 6-7 years ago when I left jail. I did my final stint there. I did 6.5 months at a maximum security in just north of Toronto. I won't name the jail, but I left and I was trying to find myself. And I had a loss of ego at that time because my ego previously was, well, I did this and this is who I was and this was my lifestyle, but now who I am. And something, really interesting happened in my life. And there's that old Greek saying, maybe Greek, maybe Persian, I'm not too sure. But it says, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. Mm-hmm. And right before I went to jail, 22 days before that, I met my current fiance. I call her my panacea. And here was another human being showing me unconditional love, except my mother. It's two different types of loves, right? But here's another human being who did not know me, who I actually broke down in front of, and I exposed myself to her emotionally, telling her exactly who I am and everything I did, and she still accepted me for who I was or who I am, and she stood by all this craziness, stood by me when I went to jail, and she just barely knew me, and that was kind of like the first catalyst or the first tipping point in my life to kind of steer me towards where I am today. So, you know, if anybody out there is going through a tough time in their life and trying to find answers, I would say one of my greatest gifts in my life was someone showing me love. You know, I think love is very powerful, and unconditional love, and love that you're not looking for anything in return. And, you know, I can't tell you where you can find it. You know, I'm not too sure about that, but maybe my story can help you out a little bit, where was literally another human being showing me just pure love, and this was what kind of like snapped me out of my haze and kind of geared me towards what I'm doing today.
Yeah, isn't that fascinating, man? I can just hear it in what you're saying and completely resonate. There's been a handful of people along my own route too, and luckily I didn't end up in jail like what happened in some of your stories, but still the same kind of down and out, hustling, traveling, just figuring things out, which incidentally does help keep the adventurer alive more than, you know, if you stayed in school and got that part of yourself abused out. But that idea where someone can look at you, and I don't know if this is how it felt to you, but to me, someone can look at you and see you in a better way than you see yourself. See the future potential, let's call it, or the innate potential that you're exhibiting that you are completely unaware of. Like you said, the ego can obscure it totally. Oh, I'm this guy who's gone to jail, or who's done this, who's done that in the past, but you don't see. I'm this guy who's going to be this big lover, this big businessman, this awesome leader in the future. But someone else might see that in you. Well, you're that guy on the street, or that guy just about to go to jail. And my God, can that may be the first view you get of yourself, is in the reflection of that other person.
Well, it's also somebody, like you said, someone seeing something inside of you and just giving you or implanting an inception in your mind. I think the problem in today's society, specifically how it's engineered, and I think how the school systems are engineered and how society in general is engineered, it's in a very slave mentality. I'm a victim mentality. I can't do nothing about it. If I try, it's not good, because failing is not good, because rejection is not good. And you see it all the time. It starts from elementary school. I remember myself, even I was a super active kid. I couldn't sit down in class, and, you know, thank God for my mother. The guidance counselors, they wanted to put me on Ritalin. And my mother's like, no, I'm not putting my son. And I think I was like, what, grade 7, grade 8 or something like that. How old am I? Like 12 or something at that time? Don't I put on these drugs because I couldn't sit down in class. Mm-hmm. Right? So imagine how many kids are on drugs in elementary school, millions. And how many kids' creativity is being destroyed by the establishment that we have right now. And that perpetuates. You go to high school. High school is a joke. It doesn't prepare you for nothing. And for God's sakes, like even right now in Ontario, some high schools, you can't even fail. There's no competition. There's no nothing. So how does that breed onus? How does that breed ownership of one's life? It doesn't. So basically the problem today is, and I think this is done purposely, is they're generating, what I mean by they, I'm not refraining to one person or organization. They is just broadly used term. Sure. When I mean they is they're creating society that's very passive, that doesn't think for themselves, that is not creative, that does not want to take risks, does not want to step outside of the boundaries. And this is perfect because you create a society which some people laugh about. I'm like, no, it's actually existing, where people are living in a zombie-like state, where they're sedated just enough so they don't think for themselves, but just enough so they can actually be consumers.
So you have tons and tons of freedom, like which soda to drink and which car to drive and which movie to see and which,
yeah, the freedom they give you, the freedom of consumerism. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the freedom to choose between options that have been selected for you, and that's an extremely fascinating point in some of your recent posts on Facebook. And for any of you guys listening, if you find Ameer on Facebook, you'll get some really cool posts and a lot of inspiring stuff. So definitely seek him out there. But some of your posts on Facebook have been pointing that out in a lot of different ways. That Well, Walt Whitman had a quote that infers this too: is that battles are won in the same spirit in which they are lost. You can take that a bunch of different ways. The way I take it is that if someone else has decided for you what the issues are and then gets you to choose one side or the other, or even better, gets a bunch of people to choose one side or the other and then engage in fighting about it, who's really won? Who's really in control there? The one who decided what issues should be important to you, not the leader on your side or the other side. So how fascinating. You get a society that's constantly just splitting itself up into striating, into various, I'm for this, I'm against this, I'm for this, I'm for that, yes. I'm against this. And then who is deciding that all those issues are important, and which of those issues actually enter into your daily life, enter into your where you can actually.
I'll tell you something. Anything you see on the media or even on social media is not important.
Exactly.
And it goes back to the motto divide and conquer. If you label somebody, they identify with that. And there's an old Vedic saying, if you label me, you negate me. And there should be no labels in life. There should be no I am this, I am that, I am better than you, therefore you have to adopt my ways, etc., etc. And this can be traced back to modern day times with Edward Bernays, who was one of the godfathers or co-creators of Hollywood. And if anybody wants to look him up, he was a nephew of Freud. He has very famous books. One is Propaganda. Anything, just go on Google and type in Edward Bernays. And the issue at hand over here, we believe that we have the choice, as you said, but it's artificial choice. It's a mass hypnosis where people, they think they are choosing between A and B. In reality, both options of A and B are just a distraction from the real issues at hand. And the real issues at hand, it can be simple. It can be basic freedoms. What's happening to my basic freedoms for freedom of speech, for freedom of my protection, for basic freedoms of natural food, of natural water. So, basic human needs are being eliminated on a daily basis globally. We see big corporate entities doing what they want, when they want, to whoever they want, with no repercussions whatsoever. And we're not screaming foul play about it because we're more or less concerned about, I don't know, some random bullshit that you've seen on social media, right? Because we think that's way more important on the grand scheme of things. Or we are overconsumed about, oh my God, that person has six-pack abs. Who gives a flying fuck if that guy has six-pack abs?
Yeah.
Or my biggest pet peeve, because I used to be in the health world, is, vegan versus paleo. I really don't give a fuck what you eat. I really don't care. You want to eat, petroleum? By all means, eat uranium and petroleum. I really don't care. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly, man. And it's that's the thing, is people are concerned with maintaining the template of their reactions to things, or falling asleep, and allowing the template to dictate all their reactions to everything more than they are, about, like you say, what they're putting into their bodies, or what's available at the store down the street, or what's happening with their neighbors. A lot of times, I see folks get online and they'll put up the most recent flag picture for whatever group they find is suffering and they relate to the most, for their profile and all this. And yet their neighbors, their own next door neighbor, first, they may not know their name, or anything about them.
Oh, guaranteed.
The next door neighbor could be suffering in a way that you could actually alleviate. And I'm not saying it from no moral perspective, no ethical perspective, just a basic, I see someone suffering there. I think I can go give them a dozen eggs or whatever it is, even just a smile. So we're completely disconnected with the actuality of our lives, the body sitting there on the computer, and then from there, everything out around the body and the people, maybe even in our own home, we could actually help, more than if we spent a little less time on the social media stuff. But yeah, it's a bizarre flip of priorities that I don't know that anyone's even being aware of or conscious of at all. And even if they are a little bit, it doesn't seem to do much.
Well, it's a work in progress. There's a saying, think global, act local.
Yeah.
And I think people, because, at the end of the day, there's a saying, the grass is always greener on the other side. Sure. And there's something also, there's one of the 25 cognitive biases is willful blindness, because we're in it so much, like in our society, in our city, in our community, that we actually don't see it. We're oblivious to it because we're a part of it so much. We're actually part of the machine itself. And then when we see the suffering happening around the world, which I'm not telling you don't focus on that suffering or brush it on the side. But remember, at the end of the day, if you want to make a real impact, nothing's more powerful than actually meeting another human being face to face and just sitting down and talking with them. I consider that empowerment. This is why, I might go a little bit tangent. I have a big dilemma and big problem with a lot of charities and a lot of the mental mindset behind charities, whereas, they're giving a helping hand. You don't need to give people a helping hand. What you need to give people is empowerment. You need to give people the knowledge. You need to give people the power to be self-sufficient. Nobody needs a handout. Nobody. I'm going to repeat that again. Nobody needs a handout. Nobody wants a handout. What people want is access to empower themselves. So instead of us giving food, why don't we show people how to grow farms? Or why don't we show people to be self-sufficient? Instead of us giving them money or schools, why don't we show them to create their own schooling system, to create their own systems and foundations? And I always give the analogy to the mouse with the cheese. We keep on feeding the mouse cheese and it keeps on coming back and keeps on coming back. But we're not training the mouse to hunt for other food. And the mentality around the world right now is very submissive, very passive. More and more people, and you see it in Spain, you see it in Greece, and Canada's a very socialist country as well. People are screaming, foul play. The government needs to give us money. The government needs to give us a standard of living. The government. I'm like, wow, that's a huge problem going. And it's a deep psychological, spiritual, psychic power around the world where people are literally giving up the freedom of self-sufficiency, the freedom of one controlling and owning one's own life. Think about that, right? No, I need somebody to give me food. Are you kidding me? I need someone to protect me. Are you kidding me? I need someone to, put shelter over my head. Are you fucking kidding me? Now imagine this, Gare. Imagine every single person in the world started loving themselves, started respecting themselves, and started providing for themselves and taking onus for themselves. Where would the world be?
Oh, yeah, man. We'd start seeing some beautiful, well, I like to say to people, we'd all be living in our version of the Shire, I bring that up just because the Lord of the Rings is such a hugely world popular film. But that and movies like it. And by the way, there is a parrot in the background here wandering around. We're in Bogota. This is my friend Juana, so she's just putting it in her 2 cents.
I thought it was like a small dog.
No, it's a little. It's a larger parrot, just hanging out. So that's some of the ambiance here. But yeah, what you're saying about in the world, if everybody was able to do that, like I say, I've seen it in small groups. Luckily, I've seen it because it's so rare. Except in individuals. I used to think only individuals can achieve this. And now lately in life, I have come across a few small communities who are living in this way. And what they've created is it feels like a bubble, like a completely separate reality when people are all loving themselves and each other and living with that as their basis, as what can I do right now in this community to make things even better, more creative, more fun, more awesome, to bring in more money. All those aspects come into play, more spiritual, more aware. And
I think it's going to happen in the future. What needs to happen, it's going to happen from a grassroots movement where there's going to be more decentralization from the main government. And it's going to go back to how it was before with fiefdoms. So, for example, with the Persians, the Ottomans, and the Romans, there's a reason why they lasted, some of them, 1,000-year empires. Quite simple. If they conquered you, you had to, ante up a certain tax, which I'm not opposed to taxes whatsoever.
Sure.
There's a time and place, and I think taxes helping the greater good of the society do work well. When taxes are abused, that's the issue. So they pay a certain tax, but guess what? We don't impose our laws. We don't impose our religions. We don't impose nothing. You govern your guy's self. You do whatever you want. But at the end of each month or at the end of each quarter, you give us this money. That's it.
Yeah.
Some people may not like that, but think about this. Why should every single person in a country ante up to a federal government that doesn't give anything back to that municipality whatsoever?
Right. Oh, you're leading to a civil war at that point. Yeah.
Why? And this is what happened with the colonies of the United States, right? The colonies, they were fed up with how the British Empire was abusing them and mistreating them and pretty much, treating them as slaves. It's kind of ironic, right? They had slaves, but they were slaves themselves. And they're like, well, enough of this. We're going to have a civil war with you. And, the war lasted for a while, and United States came out of it, and Canada's still a colony, technically a colony of the British Empire. And at the end of the day, I think in the near future, I don't know where it's going to happen. I don't know if it's Canada or United States or maybe Latin America or even Europe. But with how fast technology is moving, I think in our lifetime, we're going to see certain municipalities, globally speaking, start decentralizing, especially with cryptocurrency, using blockchain technology, using all of the latest tech that we have available to kind of mitigate away from a central stronghold of this so-called federal government that, truth be told, we have no fucking idea what goes on in there. How do they behave? How do they control us? The laws, the bureaucratical bullshit, like literally it is one fucked up mess. So the more we can step away from them and govern ourselves, govern our own, for example, province, our own city, the better off the citizens are in that area.
Yeah, definitely. And, and we see some foresight into that in the way the U.S. was set up. I think some of the Masons that set it up were like, okay, it's going to be in the hands of a lot of fools. We know this to be true. It's what happened in Europe, happens everywhere. But if we set it up in such a way that there's this weird balance of power, and there's balance of power between federal police versus state versus local. And those are important battles on some level. Not that I don't care about the specifics of them, but meaning that I see the greater balance of power between those structures. And it's becoming more and more evident in the U.S. lately, where you can have a California versus an Iowa, for example, in terms of completely different approach to mindset, to life, to everything, but in two different states,
Yeah, United States is really interesting, as you mentioned. And then just before this call, we were talking about it. It's like United States isn't one country whatsoever. You compare California to New York or New York to Florida. It's like I'm living in complete different countries. The culture is different. The ideology is different. The laws are really different.
Yeah.
Right? Really, really different.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting. And I always said, like, if and it's really, it's fascinating right now. What's going to happen is I'm sitting back. I'm going to sit back and watch the play itself. I'm really curious to see what happens with all of this gun talk in the United States. Like, I'm really interested to see what happens. It is part of the Constitution. I believe, we don't want to get into the topic of the guns are good or bad. Guns are tools, like a car. You can have an idiot using a car and kill 10 people. They run them over. There's no difference.
Or you can have a really awesome, hunter with the right gun that can feed a whole town.
I think what needs to change for guns is kind of created like you're getting a driver's license. It took me 3 years to get my full driver's license in Canada. So in Canada, at the age of 16, you write your written. So that's a G1. You can drive with an experienced driver 4 years, but he has to be in the car, or she. Then I think you wait like 8 months or 9 months, and you can get a G2, and then you're allowed like road driving. You're not allowed on the highway, something like that. Maybe the laws have changed. And finally, like a year later, you take your G, which you can do whatever you want to do. As opposed to what? In the United States, they do a simple criminal background check in some of these states, and I can literally buy a gun.
Right, and then sometimes even the criminal background check is like
bogus.
Just fill out this paperwork. Okay, here's your gun.
No, they need to have training. I think it should be a real thorough training, psychologically speaking, physically speaking. So they see, can you put the gun back together? Do you respect all these trainings? Same thing like me becoming a pilot, for example, right? Yeah. Go through these processes, pay your dues, and then every couple of years you got to do it all over again. And
training. This is an interesting point. I'm glad we came around to training. I had the thought while you were talking about schools, and high schools and everything, and there's very little training that's going on there besides the training of listen to whoever the authority is because they're in front of you, not because of any merit. And then second, just sit there and wait for the shitty experiences of your life to get over so you can go do something else. Which is people getting trained for the work week and then the weekend, essentially. Yeah. So the weekend is the pressure release valve so that the week doesn't quite kill you. And
That's exactly it. Yeah.
you know, but I thought of if just you and I say this is the first time we're ever talking, but we're able to get into some rapport. We're able to interact. It's because we're not chasing each other's validation or approval. So when we start on the ground of that, we eliminate all kinds of garbage in the conversation. And then we can even start coming to solutions. So, for example, if there was a specific high school in Toronto that you knew of, and we said, okay, we've figured it out where we can get these kids for one full weekend, and that's all we get. I know right now that just walking in, even if we had no resources between the two of us, besides what we have in ourselves, that we could sit down with that class and train probably over half of them to be able to have produce something by the end of that weekend where they have either made one sale, produced some artwork and made some connection with their favorite artist or author, and or started on getting a huge chunk of inspiration and motivation dialed in that they can run with from there, that will give them more than all of their high school so-called training has, or the college could give them. And that's in one weekend. I'm confident of that. I've seen it.
It's going to happen. The problem with the systems, the public school systems, is the bureaucracy behind it. And I think it's a system that cannot be fixed because the system itself was designed to be very efficient. When people say the system is broken, I'm like, no, man, the system works very beautifully. The system runs like a well-oiled machine. Mm-hmm. There's no fixing the system. The system needs to be trashed. Yeah. Like completely obsolete. Like we're talking about DOS. That's a DOS operating system. We need to update that operating system, and we need to change it completely because I'll tell you what, even with universities, and I see it all the time, by the time you enter school and by the time you leave school, the world has moved so fast that all that information you learned is obsolete. So I think from the early age of even elementary school, I believe we should be teaching our future generations evergreen skills that no matter when and where and in 10,000 years it applies. And so what are evergreen skills? Understanding empathy, understanding human communication, understanding how to be a leader, understand how to listen, understand how to view problems, understand how to understand awareness. Like these principles, these raw human traits, they're with us for life. And there's a big problem right now where people are saying, oh my God, social media is bringing us together. I think it's the complete opposite. I think social media is destroying the raw capability of interacting and communicating on a physical plane. I believe social media is also artificially entitling people to think that their voice and their opinion matters on a certain subject, when in reality, they have no idea what they're talking about. I think they need to do more homework. I think they need to actually become well-versed in a topic that they speak about. I think social media is also creating a lot of... it's like a tool. Let me kind of rewind it. Like social media is a tool, and I think it should be kind of training for people, psychologically speaking, because you see it. There's a huge rise in people being emotionally affected by someone leaving a comment.
I know, yeah, man.
Think about that for a moment. A random person halfway around the world may be causing you to have an emotional breakdown. That's not healthy.
And then this sort of societally embedded reaction. I didn't even know this was going on. Honestly, I haven't been very aware of the social landscape of the last 15 or so years. The last time I was deeply involved in it was in 2000, 2001. I think September 11th must have been a huge, bizarre split of some sort in the public psyche. But I have not been aware, and I noticed that. I guess I just assumed everyone was. Let me put it a different way. I was not aware that there was this tendency of people being so hung up on what you're bullying me on Facebook again. You know, I saw, I'm not going to say who it was, but a really awesome artist, actor, theater, friend of mine who's just one of the most unique characters I've ever known. Just a weirdo, just wandering the streets, looking just crazy and he's been an extra in shows, and people who in the town I was living in know of him just by, that guy down there that wanders around looking like that. Beautiful guy. And he was complaining though. This was such a weird thing. He was complaining on his Facebook, and then someone else tried to call him out and say, "Hey, dude, you can you could do a lot. You can make a lot more money than you're saying. Your skills are amazing, dude. You have nothing to complain about. You don't need to get a handout from anybody. You could actually just do your art and do really well. But he's never learned about business. He's never, doesn't know how to market that himself, even though he's already doing it automatically in a decent way. But he didn't take the guy's comment. All he did was he was looking for other people all to validate that particular victim stance he was taking without even knowing he was taking it. And he was feeling validation from everybody. The one guy who called him out and said, hey, dude, you're so much stronger than this. What are you doing? That guy then, he just said, hey, man, you're bullying me on social media again. And that guy was just shut down by everyone then. The one aware guy who was saying, hey, dude, don't be pitiful like this. And offered real solutions. And so it's almost, people don't want real solutions. They want to validate their own suffering, which is bizarre to me.
It's a victim mindset. That's a problem, though. People always want to become the victim because the extreme ownership mindset, the one that you take onus for your life, that's hard work. That means you have to take onus for all your faults. You have to put your hand up and saying, yes, it is my fault. Yes, I fucked up. And I'm going to fix it. I can't describe to you how much power that creates for somebody when someone actually picks their hand up, raises their hands, and says, "I'm the one that fucked up, and I'm the one that's going to fix this." It's almost like an instantaneous mind shift that happens to a human being. Mm-hmm. However, it's a scary thought to think about that. Oh wait, I'm all alone. But the most beautiful thing about it, you're not alone. When you raise your hand up and you say, I fucked up, or I take ownership for my life and I will no longer be a victim, you'll be surprised at what type of people you attract around you. When you have that victim mindset, as Viktor Frankl talks about, you attract people of the same mindset, the same vibrational frequency, right? Like attracts like.
Right, and even on a basic level, if like in that case I mentioned online, my artist friend, I was just so disappointed in that. But he was obviously, all the people that are going to stay connected with his posts or who he's going to not delete or block are going to be everyone who reinforces that victim mindset. And now, I don't know if this is global or just the U.S., South Park seems to be taking it on pretty heavy, but that whole PC thing is just like, it's blowing my mind. I didn't realize how much had changed since I'd been in school or out in the public sphere with these folks. I only have been interacting with individuals like yourself and various, anywhere in the world, just individuals to the point where I kind of forgot there was this other entity happening until I see it, smash its way in through my very heavily filtered social media. And it's like this weakness, but that people are almost proud of their own victim nature and looking to find other groups of like, hey, look at this big group of victims. These whoever they are.
I'm going to tell you what's going to happen in the future. It's like I said, technology is moving so fast and society is changing so fast right now that the people that can adapt, I think they're going to have a greater mental breakdown. I think they're going to escape more and more into technology and like virtual reality and kind of hide away from the rest of the world. And I think for us to take onus and say, oh, we have to transform the world, I think that's a wrong way to view it. I always say, I like the Rumi saying, yesterday I was clever, I wanted to change the world. Today I'm wise, I want to change myself. And I believe truly the best way to transform the world is just focus on yourself. Once again, love yourself. Become the best leader. And through your actions, through mirror neurons, through other people observing you, they will mimic you. It's simple as that. So instead of us trying to go out there and forcefully we have good thought process behind it, but forcefully say people, oh, you have to transform, you have to do this, you have to do that, blah, 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 blah. You're shattering the guy's identity and his ego. The guy's going to obviously tell you fuck off, right? Instead, you let him be. If you want to become self-destructive, so be it. But I'm going to tell you something. If you spy on him throughout his life, and if you're surrounded by that person, I guarantee you that person is going to start mimicking you. Because he's going to be asking questions inside of his head. He's like, whoa, what's Ameer doing? How's he doing that? Whoa, how can I get some of that? Right? As soon as you tell people what to do, you've lost. What you need to do is show me, right? We're visual creatures. We're emotional creatures. Don't tell me what to do. Show me what to do. So once again, forget the haters. Forget what people tell you. Forget what society tells you can and can't do. Just do you. That's it. Just do you. And if you look at all the crazy motherfuckers out there, from, generals to humanitarians to philanthropists, some are good, some are bad. Regardless of that, one trait they had in common, they just did themselves. That's it.
Man. And nobody can stop you then. That's the awesome place to get to. And I wanted to retrace our steps a little here, because this all connects back up from what you're saying. Like when you say, if you start with that basis of checking in, am I really loving myself, or am I at war here? Yeah. Once you see that battlefield, then things, just by looking at it, things change. You go, oh, I'm attacking the shit out of myself every day, just in my imagination.
Yep.
So then we're starting the day with that. How well can it go from there? But then when you say you take extreme ownership, extreme responsibility, and we've talked about this in some other episodes, specifically with Ben Settle, he says, take responsibility even for stuff other people do to you.
Yes,
and
of
I was
course.
like, oh, and what happens, like you said, you immediately get set right at the control panels of your life. You go, oh, that means I'm not going to go to that fucking neighborhood anymore where weird shit goes on every time I walk by the bar. Yes. That's your fault. It's not the guy who runs out of the bar and hits you. It's you. Why are you walking by there? Have you not thought about what you're doing with yourself on a constant basis? Because we're all used to sleepwalking. And then from there, you take that you have to love yourself. Then you take that responsibility, because like you said, you can't take responsibility for everything because it's an ego blow. You go, oh fuck, I can't admit that I was wrong, so I'll manipulate for hours and days and weeks to show that it wasn't my fault, it was someone else's. When you could have just cut that all out and go, yep, that was me, that was my big fuck up. Now see, if you start with that basis, 100% self-acceptance, at least self-acceptance, then the taking responsibility doesn't hurt so bad. Yeah, it's me. It's all me. Who else's fault could it be?
That's right. And I always tell people, even if you're like in your public eye, I always give examples of like in Hollywood or even somebody that's influencer. Oh, this, I heard you did this, or I heard you did that. I'll tell the person straight up, yeah, I fucking did that. So what? Then what?
Yeah, exactly. And now I'm here. Yeah.
Gone. You got nothing on me. You know what I mean? Like, you can hate him or love him with what's his name, Donald Trump.
Mm-hmm.
But I gotta give the guy some respect. That guy takes everything. Yeah, I said that. So what? You know what I mean? Like, you may not agree with who he is, but I always tell people, regardless of if you agree with an individual, there's always something to be learned from somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Always, regardless of if you think he's a good person or a bad person, or political views or religious views. Pretend that doesn't exist, for example, for a second. Just look at where he is and what he was able to accomplish, right?
Yeah.
What small trait or what small piece of wisdom nugget you can take from him and apply to your life?
Yeah, completely. What would it be like if you were able to just say what you really feel about each situation? How would that help your life? How would things play out in a different way?
Instead of conforming and biting your tongue and, oh yeah, I just want to be part of the pack and not look like an idiot.
Right. Yeah, man. There's we use Eminem a lot in some specific workshops that we put on for that reason, where he's saying he had to accept at some point, okay, the public's just gonna say and think, map on whatever evil they want. But what you have behind the scenes is a family man raising kids that aren't even his own, and all these different traits that you wouldn't expect from that person, but who had to come to all that from deep self-acceptance, and then getting over way more haters than people who love the guy.
Haters are good. Haters
exactly.
are good. Means you're hurting. You are creating confliction in somebody's psyche. Think about that. You have your voice. Yeah. You have your voice in their mind, and they're actually moving around your thoughts in their mind and wondering, fuck, wait, no, that's not possible. Can it be? Oh, no. And this is going on in their brain. They're having these stories, these talks in their head, and they can't accept that. They just can't accept a new ideology or a new paradigm or new anything. New's not good. New's scary.
And so something else that comes up in relation to this was when you are, what you were saying, don't try to change other people. No. And it's a fine line, because of course we get in conversations, you say, someone asks you a question, how do I solve this? And you say, well, try this instead. But like you said, the people are going to mimic each other. We all do that. I've caught it in myself. I see there's traits in me that I trace back to various people I've admired. And I don't even know how they came in. The way I walk, the way I might turn my head or look or say something, all these different little traits that I did not consciously recall adopting. And it leads up to the point that you are the best exhibit of what you have to share with other people. So just being around you, or you said, if you're the most important person in your life, even if you're taking care of 1,000 other people, the best possible thing you can give them isn't, like we talked about before, money or a handout or something to eat for that day, but it's exhibiting the sheer joy and beauty that is life. That's always there. There's no one that can take that joy and beauty of life away except you yourself in your own head. It's always there. The sun is coming up. There's some nature. There's, there's ants. There's just beautiful drops of water. It's a matter of focus. And like you said, that's the social media issue is when we're taught to focus on a billion different issues, none of which have any relation to what we're actually doing in our day-to-day life. What time is left to even focus on your own beauty, the beauty of your partner, the people around you, the fact you have a house or some heat that day, the
fact that you have food and shelter and you're not getting bombed and you're not living in poverty, you're winning. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, we're very, I'm at fault too. And I catch myself sometimes bitching. Sometimes the internet's not working well. I'm like, fuck, don't be a little bitch.
Yeah, I know.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm just seeing pictures of people getting bombed. They got nothing in their and they just lost their family. Snap the fuck out of it. We're grateful. We have nothing to complain about. Like, I'm sorry, if you live in like Canada or United States or any of like the westernized world, you have nothing to complain about. Nothing. And it's a hard pill to swallow. Really, really tough pill to swallow. But if you kind of dilute it, and not dilute it, but if you dissect it, you have everything. You have food. You have shelter, you're not in a war-torn country, and you have opportunities. That's it. Like you've already given a golden plate to succeed.
Yeah, and even starting with just a functional body. How amazing is that,
Yes.
Just take a look at it.
That's a win-win, yes.
I can move my toes, and they're all the way down there. I mean, it's just a fascinating thing to have that. And then starting from there, then going out into the world. I mean, just sheer volume of amazing things you can do in life.
I know.
It blows my mind.
The other day, I
basis.
was kind of, I didn't want to kind of work out, do for a little quick run, get the heart moving, and I quickly watched this video. This guy has no arms, and he's completely killing it at swimming. Swimming, and the guy has no arms, and here I am, like kind of like telling myself, I shouldn't run. And there's this guy that has no fucking arms, and he's like world class. I'm like, fuck, I suck. I'm going down.
Yeah.
So it's really good to see other human. And once again, that's mirror neurons. The guy didn't tell me anything, did he?
No, nothing at all. Yeah.
Nothing at all. He just did it himself, and I watched him like, shit, I gotta step it up.
Oh, and there's a little trick right there that we've just kind of identified. I know the Buddhists call it satsang, and then it ends up being turned into some mystical thing, which it's not. There's nothing mystical. There's just things you don't understand or haven't identified yet. But there's, the satsang is you sort of raise yourself, gain experience points, to use a gaming metaphor, just by being in the presence of someone who's supposedly, in this case, they'll use a spiritual guide. I throw the term, flip it upside down and say, okay, what if you go spend time around that guy who's an amazing swimmer? You're just going to start taking in all these different insights that you couldn't necessarily put into words. But by being aware, being present, not trying to compete, they're just going to happen. You gained actual physical, tangible motivation just by knowing of that guy's existence. So he's being him so well, it can't help but bleed out into other individuals who are watching.
Yeah, that's right.
And then that's something that we all have the power to do immediately, even if you are in poverty, even if you don't have a place to sleep, and somehow you're listening to this podcast, still, you can just go out and start identifying and creating value just in little tiny moments, whether it's a smile, sharing with somebody, helping somebody carry something. And that blossoms. I've heard so many crazy stories. Someone's on the street, they help someone across the street. That person goes, hey, you don't even have shoes on. You need a pair. Come over to my house. And they come to the house, and it's next, 10 years later, that person's the owner of some chain of restaurants that the guy owned, you know what I mean? You never know where things are going to explode and change in your life. And I find that just getting yourself in motion, in real motion, rather than just sitting in a room cycling through the social media stuff or wondering if you said the right comment and all this, but just, you like drawings? Okay. 5 minutes a day, do a drawing. Doesn't matter what it is. Doesn't matter how well it is. Does nothing. Just 5 minutes every single day, no matter what, you do your drawing. That's your freedom. And then from there, you add it. Well, you want to start your own business? Okay, what can you do in just 5 minutes every single day to move forward? Even if it's one step, one phone call, a page of notes. But that 5 minutes every day, it just starts to tend, the garden of your life. And the hero's journey, like you brought up too, none of the things we're talking about are outside of the realm of any of you listening. They're all right there in you. If we can do them, or if anyone can do them, they're there for you as well. So it's more clearing out the static, tuning into it, to your radio station, as opposed to just like what we're doing with social media is like grabbing the dial on the radio and just spinning it back and forth and hoping it lands on something that will help us. Whereas if you actually tune in, meaning focus on a particular frequency in your life, whatever that is to you, what feels right, what motivates you, not what you're supposed to be motivated by. Even if it's playing app games, I bring that up. I love playing app games because it's a way to keep my mind going no matter what emotions I have going on, no matter what experiences life deals me. I know I can go in and start winning and using my mind and applying myself. And I use specific games for this. It's another topic for later. But in that case, that was something where I would have rejected it had I not accepted myself fully and said, yeah, I have a desire to play a game on my phone. No big deal. But that little bit of personal freedom allows all of my day to flow in a different way than if I had said, well, I'm not supposed to be doing this. I'm supposed to be productive. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, I know.
So these little things that you actually like can be the seeds for how your life's going to blossom. So I want to point that out because often people will listen to a podcast like this or listen to you and me and think, okay, I've got to set aside all the stuff I like and get down to work on all the stuff I don't like, which is business and which is creativity and doing my life. No, it's the exact opposite of that. If you're doing it right, it's going to lead to, yes, more challenges, but a huge amount of fortitude and inspiration and invincibility that you're doing you so you can't go wrong. Even if the entire world deals you the worst blow ever.
That's right.
You can just pick up, start building, where you're headed, and you just keep going there. So it's not a mystery. You do it day by day, step by step. And as I'm sure you look back over the 7 years since you got out of jail, or since that turning point moment where you met your fiance. And I'm sure you can look back. There was huge things that occurred, but most of that was you're just day by day.
It's compound effect, Here I am, a couple of years, 6 years later, and I had a couple of startups, a lot of failed ones, successful ones. I learned a bunch. Been in the online marketing space for the last almost 6 years right now, and I'm at the stepping stones of opening up a digital private equity firm, giving accessibility for proper investment for people in the future. And not in my wildest dreams, even 3 years ago, if you told me I was doing, I would be doing this. So you never know where you're going to be in the future. The only thing that you can count on is count on yourself, increase the intellectual capital in yourself, educate yourself, surround yourself with really cool people. Find somebody that you love. I'm not telling people to find someone that loves you, but you give love to other people, whether that is half an hour a week or give back. Find somebody. Like what I like to do is just sit down with somebody younger and I just talk with them. I don't have any standard mentorship. I don't do mentorship, but I'll find somebody that needs help and I'll just sit down and have a cup of coffee with them. And spiritually for me, that's one of the greatest gifts of as spiritual energy for myself. And at the exact same time, it lights me up when I see these individuals actually executing on what I tell them, or I tell them the stories that I've been through, and they kind of, they use that as feedback and they apply it into their own life.
Now, isn't that interesting? See, a lot of people think, well, you have to have everything perfect to get to the point where you start companies or do business or create value for other people. But the value you're bringing to your companies now is directly related to you going through the hero's journey, going through those processes of deep down in the shadow and all those parts of our lives we want to reject. In some sense, the transcendence of the state where you feel like a loser or feel like you can't do anything, involves all those experiences of pulling yourself up out of that sewer. We all have to go through that. There's no one who just starts out with a full mindset of, okay, here we are, here, hello world, let's adventure.
No, it's never, and there's always a hero's journey. There's always going to be dragons in front of you that you have to slay. The power comes in when you accept the challenge, when you grab the sword and you're like, okay, I'm going to go fight this dragon. And the dragon being you, actually.
Right.
You're your own dragon, right? You're your own worst enemy. And I'll give you an example. Like right now, I'm opening up this interesting equity firm as part of Grow 48, where we want to focus on e-commerce and SaaS and online platforms. And we want to give the option, the power back to the people, where instead of you spending your money on bullshit pension plans in the future, I want you to make 2-3x returns on your investment within 5 years. You know, what do I know about private equity? What do I know about money management? I don't know nothing. And I don't make believe that I know something about it. I never went to get my MBA. I never took any financial classes. However, I understand building businesses. I understand online models. I understand e-commerce very well. So my dragon, even I have these dragons I face every single day. Is like, one of my dragons right now is like, how do I convince people that this is the right option? How do I raise $5 million? And I'm not going to lie to anybody. I do have fears. I have fears of people telling me, no, I'm not going to give you $5 million. And it's completely natural. The power comes into play when you are aware of your fears and you ask yourself the one powerful question is, how do I overcome them? That's the power. He's like, yeah, that's my fear. I'm aware of it. I understand it. Now, how do I overcome it? How do I destroy it? How do I get that fear to disappear? And then through that process of identifying that's when you find, you develop powers. The powers within you that you always had, they awaken.
Right, because you're not spending the time on, pissing those powers away through analyzing somebody's, social media post and coming up with just the right comment and all this. Imagine if that time was dedicated, or 10 minutes. Let's not even take much. 10 minutes of each day you take out of the social media and dedicate to writing those concepts down on your own.
Well, I tell people no social media. Like if you're looking to maximize your living standards, mentally, physically, spiritually, I'm telling people the less social media you do, the healthier you are. And it's kind of an oxymoron considering like half my businesses are on social media, but truth be told, most of my social media is automated. Like me physically being on social media is very little. I find it spiritually draining and time consuming, and it's a time suck. And I think it steals precious moments of my life away. It steals moments where if I'm outdoors, I can be missing something, or I may not be paying attention to somebody in front of me, which is very disrespectful. So be really cautious of social media. Use it as any tool you would use, and have certain protocols in there. For example, you can use a tool such as Rescue Time. And Rescue Time can show you how many minutes or hours you're spending on Facebook. And that may be a good slap in your face that you realize, oh shit, I'm spending 16 hours a week on Facebook. That's fucked up.
Definitely, yeah. And it adds up and people don't notice it. And then, yeah, with Rescue Time, you could come up with really beautiful equations. So if you want to do painting, and you've done some oil painting, let's say. There's a lot of folks I know where they almost everyone has started some kind of art, but then it withered away with lack of attention. If you use Rescue Time, for example, and identify 16 hours a week are spent on social media, you don't have to even get extreme. You could go, okay, I'm going to take 8 hours or 5 hours a week and spend those on doing the painting now.
Yeah.
Instead. Holy shit, you've just stolen back chunks of your life that you'd never get back otherwise, and you're going to have something to show for it.
That's right.
So all these folks are always asking me, oh, I got the job, but I also want to do art, but I also want to start business, and I just don't have the time. And I say, you know what, you got so much time, it's fucking unbelievable. There's people who started businesses at their temp jobs,
Yeah,
it's
exactly it.
And even if, like I said, do you have 5 minutes? Everyone says yes, and I said, well, if you have 5 minutes, you can start a giant multinational corporation. It might take you a couple of years. But 5 minutes a day actually literally is enough to get started.
It is, and I tell people don't be brainwashed and sucked into the whole fairy tale of, oh, business has to be successful into billions of dollars. When people, because they're brainwashed, they see the Ubers and they see the Airbnbs and the Facebooks and the Slacks and all these big SaaS services. I'm like, listen, they're not even part of the 1%. These are unicorns of unicorns.
Yeah.
Like these aren't even traditional unicorns. They're unicorns of unicorns. They're like 0.1% of the whole world. Statistically speaking, 99% of startups fail. I tell people that 1% succeed. And if you look at statistics, I think something like under 3%. Under 3% of all companies in North America are over $1 million in revenue. That means 97+% of all companies in North America are doing under $1 million in sales or revenue.
Yeah.
So people are always looking at like this gigantic monster company, the billions of dollars. I'm like, most likely you couldn't even handle that company. Tell you the truth, I'm just being honest with you. It takes a certain unique type of individual to run $1 billion company like that. Second of all, don't aim for that. Aim for baby steps. Like, first figure out, do people even want your product or service? Cool. Can you get one person to buy it? Cool. Can you get two? Awesome. Can you get three? Can you get four? Can you get five? Great. You finally found, product/marketplace fit. Next step, how do we make this more efficient? What's our profit margins? Are we doing 40% pre-tax profit? Cool. So we can actually make money from this business. How much time are you putting in this business? Are you liking this business? So these are more key milestones and key stepping stones you can look at instead of, oh shit, I need to do I need to make $1 billion Facebook.
Right. And then even at that level, it's not that everyone's having a leisurely amount of fun in the running of those. I mean, they could be. It's a heavy deal. Fun.
I always give examples. I'm like, there are exceptions. I don't know the relationship in Mark Zuckerberg's family, and I know he just got a baby. But if you look at most of these billionaires, most of them are divorced. It's just all your time is spent towards a company. And I give example of Elon. You can't be running $3 billion companies, not one, but $3 billion companies, and still have time to spend time with your kids.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way because that's your family. Those companies are your family, right? So in life, it's a zero-sum game. One loses, another gains, right? There can't be same thing at the exact same time. So for you to think that, you're going to have $1 billion company and have this beautiful life and la-di-da-da, that's a fairy tale. That's not reality. And truth be told, if someone told me, Ameer, do you want $1 billion? I don't know if I want to earn $1 billion. I'd like to earn it through investments, but I would never want to run $1 billion company.
No, it just sounds like
I would never want to run one. I would never want to run one. I would rather be an investor in a big VC firm or private equity firm such as mine, and through my investments and through an IPO or an acquisition, eventually get $1 billion in net assets or net, my value, as opposed to me being the CEO of $1 billion company. Never. I would never want to be a CEO of $1 billion company.
And generally that $1 billion is going to come from either the fact that you're doing something that's so remarkably awesome in your life that it just pushed and pushed and pushed and went up to that level. Because at that point, you're not even thinking much about, man, I sure could use another $2 million to get that yacht or something. That stuff's handled. The material world is handled most likely. If you've gotten to that level, you're over the fact of wanting and needing various shades of different physical objects. You're operating in a different realm. So either you got there because what you're doing is self-motivating and amazing to you, or you got there because you're a complete slave of something. I don't think that there's just an accidental knocking up into that realm. Nor do I think most folks, if faced with the actual choice, would choose to have that. Like you just talked about, it's kind of a freaky thing. Like saying, hey, well, you want to be president of the U.S.? I'd be like, I really don't think so, dude. I think I'd rather not even be in a race to get there or anything that entails, I
wouldn't even want to be in politics.
No, not at all. Not even local. I don't even want to be the local guy, who people look to for that, to blame for local problems. But so again, we come back to the same point: is just be the best you. Be, I said on a workshop somewhere, don't try to be the next, Elon Musk or the next Richard Branson or the next really anyone. Be the next you, the next you. Which is today, then it's tomorrow, then it's the next day. And one sign of growth that's important to remember, it's a bizarre one, is a sense of embarrassment at looking at how little you knew just yesterday. That's a sign of constant growth. And yet, what does school teach us? To be afraid and to live our lives avoiding embarrassment, which means avoiding learning and growth.
That's right. Awesome, brother.
So looking back at yesterday, hopefully we can all say, God, I was acting like that still? Wow. Today I'm going to do this. Well, all right, man. This has been just awesome. And any last words you want to conclude with?
Take life one day at a time. Go to bed smarter than when you woke up. Read something, look at something, hear something, whatever it may be, but go to bed smarter. And just be happy that you have good health, you have food on the table, and no one's trying to kill you. And I'm being brutally honest with you. You know, those things are taken for granted, and a lot of people around the world have it really fucked up. And, you know, us in the West, or I would say Western societies, we have it good.
Right, and so the best thing we can do with that is go forth, adventure, take some responsibility, and have a lot of fun. Have a lot of fun out there, guys. It's really an amazing world, and running around trying to get approval, trying to avoid rejection, just is a big waste of your time. You're just not. You're at the theme park, standing over in the smoker's corner complaining instead of taking the rides. You know,
that's right.
You paid to get into this thing, so you know, get on some rides, folks. Yeah, man. Well, this is great. I'm really happy to have had you on the show, and we'll invite you back sometime too. I'd like to just continue this discussion. There's about a million other points we could get into here, and I know it would be a lot of fun to do so.
Anytime, man. Anytime. Be my pleasure.
Excellent. So folks, now that you've listened to this, take it, run with it. If you want to dive into a little more to Ameer's world, there's plenty of ways to do so. We'll put those in the post where you're listening to this. If you're listening on iTunes, you can just click back over to the site, radicalundoing.com. Check out the blog, check out the podcast page. You guys know where to find us. We're all over out there. So dive into Ameer's material. He can really help you if you're at the point where you're getting started with your company. And what I mean by help is he'll help you get rid of all the bullshit you think you need to do and give you a handful of things that will actually bring you results today. So Ameer, thank you very much for coming on the show. This was a beautiful surprise that we ran into each other and that we can do this. And I look forward to seeing what you come up with next.
Likewise.
All right, man. Have a wonderful day, and we'll talk to you all very soon.
And not a single fuck was given that day.